Hello, what's up?
Oh, hi, Alyssa. Actually, something really terrible happened.
What's so terrible? Aren't you on a business trip right now, Nate?
Yeah, I'm on a business trip. But there's been a problem.
What happened?
Kathy collapsed.
What? I met Kathy's eyes. But Kathy. My name is Alyssa, a 32-year-old working homemaker. I was raised by my kind father and mother, growing up freely in the countryside. When I started college, I moved to New York City and began living on my own. I loved the countryside air, but I was also attracted to the many opportunities in the city where I could challenge myself. After graduating from college, I stayed in New York City and got a job. However, the company I joined was a real sweatshop, and it wore me down more than I had expected. Every day was a mountain of work, and I was constantly scolded and belittled by my boss and colleagues. Every morning before going to work, my stomach would hurt. Even so, I forced myself to endure it because it was the path I had chosen, and I dragged myself to work. But one day, I collapsed on my way to the office. I had been working overtime until the last train every night, and on top of that, I was forced to join my boss for drinks and had to drink a lot. After returning home late at night, I forced myself to get up and go to work, but I lost consciousness on the way to the station. A passerby called an ambulance, and I was taken to the hospital. The diagnosis was overwork and lack of sleep, and I laughed to myself, thinking, of course. Working at such a company, it was inevitable. But there was no choice. Everyone accepted it and kept working. My thinking was distorted by the environment. However, when it was decided that I would be hospitalized, my worried parents came from the hometown to see me, and I couldn't help but cry when they arrived. Mom, Dad. My parents silently hugged me.
I was so scared thinking about what could have happened if you had collapsed alone at home.
I was taken aback when my mother said that to me. The situation was quite abnormal. The company I worked for was insane. So, I decided to quit. Since then, I have been working from home as a freelancer. My parents suggested that I return to my hometown, but there were more job opportunities in the city. Besides, I didn't want to run back home defeated. There was some rebellious spirit in me. So, I stayed in New York and started a new job. I had originally worked at a web design company, so I chose the same type of work as a freelancer. At first, I applied for jobs that welcomed beginners and focused on building my portfolio. Working alone at home took some getting used to, but I worked hard because it was the path I had chosen. Gradually, my efforts started to pay off, and the rates for my work began to increase. Thanks to that, I'm now earning about the same amount of money as when I was a full-time employee. Although the first company I joined was a sweatshop with very low pay, so in general terms, it's not much. Still, I'm very proud of having started from scratch and gotten this far. With my work going smoothly, I began looking for new connections. Around that time, my friend William introduced me to someone at his workplace who was looking for a girlfriend. Trusting William, I decided to meet this man without hesitation. That man, Nate, later became my husband. Nate is a sales representative at an IT company, a clean-cut guy with short hair. He's the same age as me but looks younger. And as expected of a salesperson, he had a way with people. He was very interesting and a good conversationalist. Therefore, even when we first met, I had a great time. I felt attracted to him, and it seemed he was interested in me too. So after a few dates, we started dating. Things are going so well now, something I couldn't have imagined when I was mentally exhausted from working at a toxic company. Nate treated me well, and our time together was always enjoyable. Our relationship progressed smoothly, and a year and a half after we started dating, he proposed to me and we decided to get married. I was so happy to be marrying the man I love that it brought tears to my eyes. I believed that with him, we could build a warm and happy family. And soon we went to greet my parents.
I promise to make our life happy with Alyssa, so please rest assured.
He said this earnestly, and my parents quickly trusted him.
It seems like you found a good person. We hope you a happy marriage life with Alyssa.
The meeting to announce our engagement went on in a pleasant atmosphere. I was so happy that my parents accepted the person I chose. Next, it was my turn to meet his relatives. Actually, he had already lost both his parents. He lost his mother to illness when he was young, and his father also passed away a few years ago due to illness. So, his only close relative was his older sister, Kathy.
Kathy is 6 years older than me and kind of like a guardian. She's incredibly talented, and I can never measure up to her.
I see. She must be an amazing person. I suddenly felt nervous about meeting her. From what I heard, Kathy is a career woman who works very hard. She started her own company in her early 20s and continues to run it successfully, expanding her business rapidly. I had never met someone so impressive, so I was extremely nervous. I wondered what kind of person she would be. As I felt both excitement and anxiety, the day finally came. I heard that Kathy lives in the house she inherited from her late father. I followed Nate to the house. Talking with Nate gradually eased my nervousness, but standing in front of the house's entrance made me tense up again. When he pressed the intercom, the door opened, and Kathy greeted us. "Nice to meet you. My name is Alyssa."
Nice to meet you too. I've been looking forward to meeting you today. Please come in.
Kathy welcomed us with a very kind smile. She is currently 38 years old, but she looks very youthful and energetic. She had a cool, confident aura, perhaps because she is a business owner. She was stylish and beautiful, so much so that I was mesmerized just by her presence. Kathy guided us to the living room, and we sat across from her at the dining table.
Kathy, I want to marry Alyssa.
Well, if she's the one you chose, I trust your decision. You're adults, so all the responsibility is on you. Besides, she seems like a dependable person, so I'm relieved.
I was relieved to hear Kathy say that. This got us the permission to marry. All we had to do now was have the wedding. I thought so, but a little problem arose when we started talking about my job during some small talk afterward.
By the way, what kind of work do you do, Alyssa?
I work as a freelance web designer.
Oh, freelance.
Kathy looked at me suspiciously.
Are you sure that job is stable?
What do you mean by stable?
I mean, as a freelancer, isn't there a risk you could lose your job at any time?
Well, that's true, but I get work regularly every month, and I make enough to live on.
I see, but in this day and age, if you don't have a stable job like a full-time employee, very few people succeed as freelancers. Most people have a main job and do freelance work on the side.
Kathy said this with a concerned look on her face. I understand your concerns, but I'm doing my best in my own way, and I'm seeing results. I'm actually quite competitive, and I get passionate about protecting what I need to protect. Nate stepped in to stop us.
Hey, both of you, that's enough. Now's not the time to get into a deep discussion about work.
That managed to calm things down, but Kathy still didn't seem convinced. She wasn't opposed to our marriage, but she didn't seem to understand my job. However, since Kathy's house was about a 2-hour drive from our new home, I thought we could avoid regular contact with her, so Nate and I got married. Afterward, we met each other's families, and we were able to have a smooth wedding. William, who had introduced us, gave a wonderful speech, making it an unforgettable, beautiful wedding. And so, my married life with Nate began. In the beginning, we enjoyed a happy newlywed life. We spent our weekends driving and traveling, making lots of memories. Life with my kind husband remained peaceful, and I felt happy thinking that having kids would make us even happier. But in the second year of our marriage, Nate started coming home late, saying he was busy with work. Can we have dinner together tonight?
Oh, sorry. There's a lot of paperwork with a new deal, so I'll be working late. Everyone at the office is working late, and even though we're newlyweds, I can't be the only one leaving early.
I see. It can't be helped. I felt lonely due to my husband's business, but I didn't want to burden him. While working from home, I did my best to take care of the housework for him. Sometimes I met Kathy, and each time she would advise me to become a full-time employee, saying my current job wasn't stable. Every time I visited her house, she would say this, and it started to wear me down mentally. I began to feel uncomfortable around Kathy and eventually consulted my husband about it one day. I think I want to keep my distance from Kathy. I admire her for achieving success through her own efforts, but she seems very strict with those around her. It's tough when she constantly criticizes my job.
Well, Kathy is a bit conservative. Plus, she has a protective role over me, so she probably sees herself as a parent and treats you the same way. But if it's too much, you don't have to force yourself to get along with her.
Thank you. It means a lot to hear you say that. My husband never forced me to get along with Kathy, nor did he push her words on me. It was something I was truly grateful for. 3 months passed by, and I was enjoying my peaceful daily life. However, my husband was still coming home late and seemed busy. Even so, he kept telling me, just a little longer, and things will get easier, so please wait for me. So, I decided to wait for the time we could enjoy a slow meal together again, and focused on my work instead. One day, while working from home, my phone suddenly rang. Looking at the screen, I saw it was Kathy. It had been a while since I last heard from her, so I was surprised. I hesitated about whether to answer, but in the end, I couldn't ignore it and picked up the call. Hello, Kathy, what's up? I hadn't been to her house recently, and Kathy hadn't said anything in particular to me, so I wondered if she was calling to complain about my lack of visits. I found myself bracing for potential criticism from her about not visiting. Instead, she surprised me with unexpected words.
I'm sorry, Alyssa.
What?
I've been too harsh on you without really knowing you.
What do you mean?
Recently, one of my subordinates gave me a list of web designers for a new project, and your name was on it. I saw your portfolio. Alyssa, you've created web pages for various companies, and the quality of each one surprised me. Every single detail was meticulously crafted, and I was moved.
Just as Kathy said, I always pay attention to detail when creating web pages, fulfilling my clients' wishes. It seemed like Kathy finally recognized my work.
I'm really sorry for everything. My humility, which I believed I still had, seemed to have disappeared somewhere along the way. I deeply regret it and wish I could start over from the day we first met. I now understand your passion for your work. I'm truly sorry for all the unnecessary advice I gave as an amateur.
Kathy. I was surprised by her apology, but it made me happy. Being directly acknowledged for my work was truly gratifying. Despite Kathy's previous lack of understanding of my work, I had always respected her personality and her career achievements. Founding a company at a young age and continuing it for over a decade was something I couldn't even imagine. The resolution of our misunderstandings was a very welcome development. And then Kathy invited me to lunch.
There's a restaurant I'd like to go to with you. What do you think? You can decline if you don't want, but I'd love to hear more about your work.
Thank you for the invitation, Kathy. I'd be happy to join you. So, we decided to have lunch the next day at a restaurant Kathy chose. I wanted to tell my husband about it, but he was busy and had to leave early for a business trip the next morning. You'd be surprised but surely happy to hear that Kathy and I were getting along. Thinking about this made me excited as I got ready. Time flew by, and the lunch date with Kathy was approaching. I didn't want to be late, so I headed to the upscale restaurant Kathy had recommended via text. I even went to the salon to lightly style my hair and dress nicely to ensure I wouldn't embarrass Kathy.
Oh, Alyssa.
Kathy waved at me with a smile in front of the restaurant, then apologized to me again.
I'm really sorry for saying all those things about your work.
It's fine, Kathy. Let's just enjoy today together.
I'm glad to hear you say that. You can eat whatever you like today.
Really? Are you sure about that? I might just eat everything on the menu.
Oh my, shall we try to conquer the menu together? It's going to be quite an amount.
We continued our meal in a joyful mood. As I talked with Kathy, I started to see the good sides of her that I hadn't noticed before. I began to respect Kathy, who was capable, strong, and kind. Kathy also shared various things about herself, including her divorce story. It turned out she had been married before but had divorced due to her husband's affair.
When I got divorced, I was really glad I was a business owner. Even as a woman, having the ability to be independent is advantageous. Having many options is a wonderful thing. Otherwise, you'd have to endure unreasonable situations. That's why I was a bit strict with you. But it seems I was meddling unnecessarily, and I'm really sorry for that.
I'm happy you understand now, and I also understand your thoughts and feelings. You were genuinely concerned about me. As I said this, Kathy smiled shyly. Then, suddenly, my phone rang. Oh, it's Nate. I wonder what's up.
Isn't Nate on a business trip right now?
Yes, he is. Something bad might have happened. Since we were in a private room, I put it on speaker so Kathy could hear too. Hello, what's wrong?
Oh, Alyssa. Something really serious has happened.
What's serious? Nate, aren't you on a business trip?
Yes, but there's been an issue.
What happened?
Kathy has collapsed.
What? I exchanged glances with Kathy. But Kathy is. As I started to say that, Kathy urgently gestured to me. To keep her presence a secret, understanding her intention, I decided not to mention it. My husband didn't notice and continued talking.
So, I'm cutting my trip short and heading to the hospital. Kathy is undergoing some tests, and I'll get the details from the doctor. After that, I'll be taking care of her at home until things settle down.
Shouldn't I go too?
No, it's fine. You don't really get along with Kathy, right?
Even so.
Don't worry about it. Actually, Kathy thinks you're a troublesome sister-in-law to you, so she said it's fine if you don't come.
I see. All right then.
I'm going to hang up now.
Nate said that and ended the call. At that moment, I realized he was hiding something from me. And it must be something he couldn't talk to me about. He is almost certainly cheating. Then Kathy said,
Alyssa, unfortunately, I think you're right. Nate is cheating. But don't worry, I'm on her side.
Reassured by Kathy's definite words, I resolved to uncover the truth. And if he is cheating, I vowed to myself that I would take action against my husband. After that, Kathy and I started to plan together. First, to investigate my husband's actions, I immediately contacted William. He's a colleague of my husband's at work and should know well about my husband's work situation. When I explained the situation over the phone, he suggested we meet in person, so Kathy and I decided to meet him later. A few days later, the three of us talked in a cafe, and it turned out my husband hadn't gone on a business trip at all but had been taking a week off using his paid leaves. During this time, he was likely spending time with his mistress. William, knowing my husband's lies, had started to suspect the affair.
I'm sorry. I didn't think it would come to this.
No, it's not your fault. Later, Kathy and I decided to hire a detective agency to get solid evidence. When my husband returned a week later, he lied unbelievably about Kathy's health deteriorating or becoming sick. I pretended to know nothing and went along with his story. Then, about a week later on the weekend, my husband said he was going to check on Kathy and left, planning to return on Monday. This was undoubtedly another rendezvous with his mistress. I sent him off with a smile and immediately contacted Kathy. Then Kathy came to stay with me on Sunday, and we waited for my husband at home. We already had the investigation results from the detective agency, but further plans were needed to corner him. Then Monday came, and my husband returned home around noon.
I'm home.
Welcome back. How is Kathy doing?
Well, she's managing, but she'll need to start going to the hospital regularly. I'll need to check on her from time to time.
That sounds tough.
She was unusually down. I guess she feels I, being her only family as her brother, should be there for her.
The moment Nate said that, Kathy appeared from the next room.
Nate, what are you doing?
Whoa.
Nate was so surprised to see Kathy that he nearly fell over. As my husband was taken aback, Kathy and I slowly approached him together.
Do you have another sister or something?
What do you mean? Why is Kathy here? I thought you and Kathy didn't get along.
We've reconciled, and I was shocked when you called to say I had collapsed while I was having a pleasant lunch with her.
What?
Your timing couldn't have been worse for you. Well, it made it immediately obvious to us that you were cheating.
Cheating? I didn't do anything like that.
My husband kept denying it, visibly shaken. That's when I showed him the evidence photos. Here you are leaving your mistress's house and entering a hotel. Along with the overnight trips you lied about, there's no escape for you now. I've also confirmed with William that you lied about being on a business trip and actually took paid leave.
Fuck.
My husband fell silent, unable to argue. You've deceived me, Kathy, and even your colleagues at work. It's despicable.
Really? Lying about me being sick to use me as a convenient excuse is unforgivable. You even use your only family as an excuse. I'm disappointed in you. As a sister, I'm embarrassed.
My husband collapsed, lost for words. Afterwards, we decided to divorce, and we demanded compensation from my husband and his mistress. With Kathy's support, everything progressed smoothly. It seems Kathy decided to cut ties with Nate after this incident. Originally, she had planned to place him at the top of her company, but that's no longer happening. Moreover, my ex-husband's affair became known at his workplace, and he's been receiving cold stares. He can't quit his job because of the alimony payments, but the harsh treatment from others and the stress have caused him to overeat and gain 66 pounds. Now, he weighs over 198 pounds and looks quite terrible.
Nobody would sign a deal with him coming as a salesman. It feels like just a matter of time before he quits.
William said. He used to perform decently, but now my ex-husband's performance has plummeted, and he's been demoted and had his salary cut. Well, it's all his own fault, so I feel no sympathy. On the other hand, my career is going well, and I've officially received a request from Kathy's company. Kathy and I have become good friends, but we keep our work and personal lives separate. Kathy has genuinely reviewed the web pages I created without any bias and has given them proper credit.
I trust you professionally as well,
she said while offering me a new job. As friends, we also regularly go out to eat and even take trips to spa resort together. Although my marriage failed, meeting Kathy has been a truly happy outcome. Going forward, I plan to focus on my work and cherish the relationships with people like Kathy who treat me well.